a lot of people talking about Elon Musk and Trump and the recent election have noted that we may be living in the worst timeline. And I can confirm we're living in the worst timeline because not only do we now have Magic the Gathering player in the White House with JD Vance, but we now have something worse with Elon Musk, a Redditor. Why does Musk think Doge is the peak of comedy? Because he's not very funny. I am pleased to announce that the great Elon Musk, by the way, putting great Elon Musk as like a title is horrifying to hear. Working in conjunction with American patriot Vivek Ramaswamy will lead the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE. Now, I would give good money to be in the room when Elon tried to explain to Trump how cool and epic it would be to name something Doge, because I guarantee you it was like watching a 7-year-old explain their hyperfixation to their grandparents. Like, it was exactly like that. Just like, yeah, no, oh wow, oh, okay, cool. It's based in epic. Oh, whatever you say, Elon. Okay. Together, these two wonderful Americans will pave the way for my administration to dismantle government bureaucracy, slash excess regulations, cut wasteful expenditures, and restructure federal agencies essential to the Save America movement. This is all Project 2025 shit. We've talked about it extensively. Restructuring federal agencies essential to the Save America movement is perhaps the most alarming thing there, because as you may know, Twitter hasn't done super great since Elon took over. Oh, there we go. According to Fidelity, Elon Musk's X, formerly known as Twitter, is worth around $9.4 billion, which is less than 25% of the $44 billion Musk paid for it in October 2022. This is the person that Trump wants to put in charge of government efficiency. The person who, by the way, if you ever come into physical proximity of somebody who says that Elon fixed the bot problem, nar, honey. Nope. No. This will send shockwaves through the system and anyone involved in government waste, which is a lot of people, stated Mr. Musk. Notably, much like Trump, somebody with, prior to this, literally no experience in any kind of government. Elon has no experience in government. And outside of firing a shit ton of people who were apparently essential to making Twitter a profitable place, apparently essential to making it work correctly on a back end, apparently essential for keeping exploitative materials off of it, all things that have exploded under Musk. But yeah, let's give this guy a job. It will become potentially the Manhattan Project of our time. This has this sentence right here is very funny. This has all of the energy of. Do you remember Max Landis? Who remembers Max Landis? It doesn't matter. The only thing you need to remember about Max Landis is that time that he said, if Bright, the Netflix Will Smith film Bright, if Bright does well, it's wild to think this could be my Star Wars. And that is the exact energy this has, and I can almost guarantee the exact energy it's going to have 4 or 5 years from now when we're looking back at it. Republican politicians have dreamed about the objectives. Just chat, look at that sentence with me. I can't even say it. Republican politicians have dreamed about the objectives of DOGE for a very long time. To drive this kind of drastic change, the Department of Government Efficiency will provide advice and guidance from outside of government, and will partner with the White House and Office of Management and Budget to drive large-scale structural reform and create an entrepreneurial approach to government never seen before. What that is essentially saying is that it is going to be more privatized than ever. It is outside contractors like Elon Musk. I don't even need to bet money to know that Tesla, that Elon Musk's companies are going to be directly profiting from this. That probably Trump's companies and its subsidiaries. Probably the shit that Vivek is into. Vivek Ramaswamy's artful narrative, meticulously tailored for the GOP primary voter, weaves a tale of principled sacrifice and success. According to his version, he helmed the leadership of Roivant, a multi-billion-dollar American pharmaceutical company, founded and gallantly relinquished his CEO role in 2021 due to his unwavering stance against ESG principles, despite facing opposition from his liberal workforce. While this narrative might seem appealing, it is akin to his endless flip-flops that have plagued his campaign, an elaborate work of fiction that unravels upon a modicum of scrutiny. And you know what? Why wouldn't anybody lie on their fucking resume ever? When look at where it gets you. Straight up, look at where it gets you. Between Trump, Elon, like you get your own fucking department named after a meme for just lying and grifting your way to the top. Who gives a fuck? Nothing's true anymore. Let's start with basics. Ramaswamy has funded, by the way, Vivek is wholesale a grifter. Make no mistake about it. He is actually perfect to be in this with Elon because I'm willing to bet they're going to eat each other alive to try and see who can outgrift who. Funded his campaign through the sale of over $32 million in stock options in February of this year. This could lead one to believe that Roivant, based in Bermuda, is thriving and that Ramaswamy is a great entrepreneur, except the company reported staggering losses of $1.2 billion in its financial report of March 2023. This isn't a one-time slump. In March 2022, when Ramaswamy was still Roivant's chairman and a major shareholder, the company reported an annual loss of $924.1 billion. His defenders argue that Roivant performed better during his tenure as CEO in 2021, but alas, the numbers tell a different story. The reality is that Roivant's finances were abysmal under Ramaswamy's watch. During his tenure in 2019, the company's net operating loss exceeded $530 million. By 2020, the losses had doubled to over $1 billion, accompanied by a 65% decline in revenue. Department of Government Efficiency. Department of Government Efficiency. Let's put these two guys in charge of it, huh? Let's keep reading. Let's go. I look forward to Elon and Vivek making changes to the federal bureaucracy with an eye on efficiency and, at the same time, making life better for all Americans. Bullshit. Importantly, we will drive out the massive waste and fraud. We will... Yeah, Elon and Vivek are going to drive out the waste and fraud. Okay. Which exists throughout our annual $6.5 trillion of government spending. They will work together to liberate our economy and make the U.S. government accountable to we the people. Their work will conclude no later than July 4th, 2026. Okay, so let's just say, for the sake of argument, that they create this department and achieve their goals. Do you really think Elon Musk heading a department in the United States government is going to relinquish it in just 2 years? A smaller government with more efficiency and less bureaucracy will be the perfect gift to America on the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. I am confident they will succeed. Unbelievably bleak. Like, we already knew through Project 2025, through Trump just being Trump, that he was always going to play these favorites. That he was always going to, especially far more than even the last time, give handouts to the people who were closest to him for his entire campaign. Especially when it comes to Vivek and Kristi Noem, who also got appointed a cabinet position. Two people who I specifically singled out as being massive, just doing tricks on it, flopping around, going crazy, Cirque du Soleil on Trump's Jimmy Jams during CPAC. Like when I saw that at CPAC, the only thing I could think for those two specifically, and a couple other people, but them specifically, was, oh, they want to be VP. If not VP, they like, which like very funny that Kristi Noem probably thought she could get a VP nom. Like, they're conservatives are never fucking having a woman VP nom. Are you crazy? All right, let's do Secretary of Defense. Let's go to Pete Hegseth. I'm honored to announce I've nominated Pete Hegseth to serve in the cabinet as my Secretary of Defense. Pete has spent his entire life as a warrior for the troops and for the country. Pete is tough, smart, and a true believer in America first. Not what I want to hear. Our military will be great again, and America will never back down. Pete has been a host at Fox News for 8 years, where he used that platform to fight for our military and veterans. Pete's recent book, The War on Warriors, spent 9 weeks on New York Times bestsellers list, including 2 weeks at #1. Trump has focused his attention on appointing loyal allies to positions of power within his upcoming administration. In the statement, he praised his career, including his work on Fox, saying he used his platform to fight for military and veterans. So it's basically because he filleted Trump on public television. That's what I'm gleaning from this. Not through any actual fucking like qualifications. Is anybody surprised? I'm not.
Next up, we have South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem, who refused to mandate masks at the start of the pandemic. She's another lifelong politician who flexes her down-home cred to depict herself as a woman of the people and seems to be desperately seeking a Trump VP nom. Most notably, she worked with a major energy company to create legislation banning protests to build a pipeline. She proposed the Fairness in Women's Sports Act to ban the infinitesimally small number of trans athletes, and she abolished needing a permit to carry firearms in her state. She also spent $70,000 in taxpayer money tricking out the governor's mansion with imported drugs and a hot tub. We get a pump-up reel of Kristi Noem before she takes the stage, and it's pretty clear they're setting Noem up as a new, non-embarrassing Marjorie Taylor Greene type. And it appears to have worked, as she placed at the top of the CPAC straw poll for potential VP nominees. She opens with, "Thank you for being true patriots and loving America," before playing up more of the small-town work ethic BS. In reality, she has a net worth in several millions that has absolutely exploded since taking office and, let's say, diversifying her investments. Most of her campaign donations, despite the down-home aesthetic she pushes, are big money from out of state tied to, would you believe it, things like oil and her investments in real estate. Anyway, she wants to tell you, the people, about who's really trying to take away freedoms, who's really tricking the American people.
This election, the choice is clear. There are two kinds of people in this country right now. There are people who love America, and there are those who hate America.
She talks about the people who love America versus those who hate it and are taking away your freedoms. And someone behind me says, "Yeah, that's about it," in response. And then this, unsurprisingly, just turns into another Trump speech, saying Trump is real, he cares about you, he doesn't think he's better than you.
President Trump, he broke politics in 2016. He just did. And I think that's a good thing, because he's real. He's not perfect, none of us are, but he cares about you. And what I love about him the most is that he doesn't think he's better than you.
So if you want to know how and why Kristi Noem got her nomination to the Secretary of the Department of Homeland, DHS, it's because she fits right in. It's because she is a grifter for profit. She will say and do anything that continues getting her that big fat paycheck, even acquiescing to Trump, which she was doing all throughout CPAC, all throughout the RNC, all throughout the campaign. Like, just glazing it up like donuts. So yeah, Kristi has been very strong on border security. Again, you can't help but question the qualifications of somebody when they're being cited as strong on border security when she's a congresswoman from South Dakota. Famously, right? It's South Dakota, not North Dakota, South Dakota. They are locked in between a whole bunch of other American states. That's not the end of Kristi Noem, because what you probably might remember her from earlier this year was the story of her shooting her dog. Her odds declined sharply, being a pick for Trump following the publication of extracts from her 2024 biography, No Going Back, in which Noem described shooting her 14 14-month-old dog Cricket after concluding it was untrainable. In addition to the killing of Cricket, Nome has been engaged in a number of other controversies throughout her career, which has seen her banned from the lands of several Native American tribes, accused of fabricating a meeting with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, and criticized after promoting a cosmetic dental surgery in Texas. Nome said she made the decision to kill Cricket due to concerns over her children's safety. Dangerous dog that was killing livestock and attacking people. Dogs killing chickens. Dogs doing what dogs do, especially if they get a taste for blood. You rehome it, you fucking psychopath. The Republicans just spent several months spreading fear and shitty AI memes on Facebook about Trump saving the cats and the dogs. And the first thing Trump does, before even actually getting into office, he picks somebody who is a literal dog killer. Not accidentally. She chose to go and load a gun and shoot a dog. Like, they're not even trying to fucking hide this. They're not trying to hide the blatant nepotism and corruption. Stephen Witkoff, a New York real estate tycoon, his special envoy to the Middle East. Dog. Golfing buddy. Who is Trump golfing buddy Steve Witkoff? Golfing buddies. That's what we're getting here. Witkoff donated more than $2 million to Trump's political action groups, according to a 2021 ProPublica report. The former president called him a friend of mine, my pal, and a special guy during a roundtable event in 2018. But let's go to RFK Jr.'s plans. At an event late last week in Arizona, anti-vaccine activist and Donald Trump transition team member RFK Jr. said he'd fire and replace 600 people from the National Institutes of Health on day one. The NIH is one of public health agencies Kennedy loathes most, and despite still lacking any defined role in the new admin, he's still relishing the opportunity to promise retribution against them. We need to act fast. We want to have those people in place on January 20th so that on the 21st, 600 people are going to walk into offices at NIH and 600 people are going to leave. Long-standing opponent of vaccines has consistently been critical of NIH, the Centers for Disease Control, and other federal agencies that are part of the basic infrastructure of public health. Make America Healthy Again agenda came during an onstage interview at an entrepreneurship event in Scottsdale, which included discussions of Kennedy's workout routine and his relationship with the once and future president. Kicking the special interests and the deep state out of government, calling the NIH an orgy of corruption. As opposed to all of these other people working with Trump. As opposed to all of these people who have just so blatantly been using their positions for more money and more power. No corruption between Vivek fucking Ramaswamy and Elon Musk and Kristi Noem and RFK Jr. None whatsoever. No corruption when Trump is getting his golf buddies, who are real estate tycoons, elected as envoys to the Middle East. That's not corruption. No, that's not a deep state at work. I never saw anybody who was autistic when I was a kid, Kennedy claimed. Oh, God. NIH won't do those studies because they don't want to know the source or the cure or the treatment of chronic disease, he declared. He also returned to his hobby horse, claiming links between vaccines and a spread in autism. I never saw anybody who was autistic when I was a kid, Kennedy claimed. Never. He added that men his age, Kennedy is 70, don't have full-blown autism, which he defined as wearing helmets and not being toilet trained and head-banging, stimming, toe-walking. That's fucking insane. There is somebody... Not only is somebody who believes vaccines cause autism going to be in charge of health and safety in America. Tentatively, under Trump. He doesn't just believe vaccines cause autism. He seems to think autism is an overriding and completely debilitating disability. RFK Jr., you are surrounded by Trump and Elon Musk and Mike Lindell. You're going to say you don't know any autistic people. Not a one. Oh my God. Kennedy also used his appearance in Scottsdale to continue fawning over Trump, saying the incoming president has an aura of greatness around him for his role in standing up to what he called the globalist project. This is a man I cannot express enough. RFK Jr. has actually had his brain eaten by worms. He has a part of his brain missing because he ate bad meat and got a brain worm. Got a brain parasite. So now that we've talked about some tentative plans for health and human services, the NIH, the CIA, the Department of DOGE, oh yeah, no, his anti-vax shit, Patrick Clover, thank you for reminding me, his anti-vax shit got 80 plus people killed in Samoa by causing a fucking measles outbreak. Again, I talked about it a little bit a couple days ago, but the reason why COVID as an outbreak was so deadly was partially because of Trump trying to underplay it, partially because of the way that he had already cut funding and safety nets and regulations, regulative bodies. Now, the reason Trump has been cutting regulative bodies in his first term, it was a lot of stuff to do with ecology. It was a lot of stuff that prevented companies from either drilling for oil, fracking, or using land, cutting down forests, endangered like creature zones, like that kind of shit. Cutting all that for more privatization so that rich people could continue making more money. This is going to turbo fuck all of those things. And the idea that you have somebody like RFK Jr. in charge of that, somebody who thinks that vaccines cause autism, which has never been proven, there isn't a shred of credible evidence anywhere, ever. If any scientist, quote unquote scientist, biologist, virologist, whoever says, oh, well, vaccines are proven because of this, that, and the other, look them up. Look up who they are. Look up their vested interest in telling you that. Because much like with COVID and the doctors who came out against COVID, I'm willing to bet they have a financial interest in doing so. I'm willing to bet they'll have a book coming out soon. Or, in the case of people like RFK Jr., get a place in Trump's cabinet or his orbit. So now that we've looked at what they want to do to the rest of society, let's take a quick look at what they want to do to education. Because if there's one thing Trump's election can show us, it's that a stupid population is a Trump voting population.
On the campaign trail this year, the president-elect said he's been dying to do it.
We will ultimately eliminate the Federal Department of Education.
Donald Trump's pledge to abolish the Department of Education, part of his push to wipe out what he's called corruption and waste in Washington.
We will drain the government education swamp and stop the abuse of your taxpayer dollars to indoctrinate America's youth with...
Mind you, so much of this has been driven by people like Chaya Raichik and Matt Walsh. People who have not let up, who have specifically targeted individual educators because they happen to be queer, they happen to have colored hair, they happen to make their classroom an inclusive and welcoming space for students who might otherwise feel uncomfortable. That is where all of this really stems from. The idea that they're pushing wokeness in schools because there are teachers who might let kids experiment with different pronouns, who might use preferred names that their parents won't at home and not report them to the state. Because there are teachers out there who care about the safety and mental health of their students. Because there are teachers out there who sacrifice and give of themselves for students. This is the conservative reaction to kindness. The conservative reaction to a teacher's natural impulse to try and protect and provide for students is to ostracize and destroy. Now, do y'all think, by the way, do y'all think that there's any kind of measures to keep kids safer in schools? Like, we want to disband the Department of Education. We want to make sure that your kids aren't learning about actual American history or being woke, or that it's okay for people to have different pronouns or be of different skin colors or a different religion. That stuff we don't want. Do you think Trump is doing literally anything to make sure that your kids do not get shot to death because some fucking dipshit 14-year-old was radicalized into being a Nazi on Elon's Twitter and got it in his head that he needs to protect the white race because of Mr. South African free speech? Do you think anything is being done to prevent that, mitigate that? Nope. Nar. That's a big no, baby girl.
Things that you don't want to have our youth hearing.
Why does Trump want to get rid of the Department of Education? Analysts say part of it is the Republican philosophy of getting the federal government out of education and moving that to the states. But it also involves the culture wars.
Issues involving how sex was taught, about race and ethnicity, about LGBTQ students' rights. And so what we've seen over these last few years is that a lot of adult politics have found their ways into our schools.
What does the Department of Education do? One of its biggest jobs, analysts say, is funding America's students.
The Department of Education exists mostly to send money back to schools for Pell Grants, for student loans, for impoverished elementary and secondary schools, and for special ed.
The department's also tasked with investigating discrimination in schools. What if the department...
So, I hope everybody heard that. If you destroy the Department of Education, what will there be to allocate funding to schools that need it? Schools in impoverished areas, special education programs, Pell Grants for colleges. The conservative, now, Donald Trump has no, again, this is much like trans stuff. He doesn't have an opinion. He is a mirror to reflect the opinions of the people surrounding him who have their own agendas, which, if his orbiters or anything to go by, I'm willing to bet include a lot of people who want to get their little grubby mitts in the privatization of public school, who have an ability to try and make a profit off of this.
It was wiped out?
It would be catastrophic for the country because so many students depend on those resources and those protections. And it's students in poverty, it's students with disabilities, it's our whole student loan portfolio.
Politics has often crept into the debate. During the first Trump administration, Education Secretary Betsy DeVos, the first cabinet secretary to survive confirmation thanks only to a vice president's tie-breaking vote, championed conservative causes like charter schools and vouchers. And today, she seemed to back gutting the agency she once led.
So are you saying you don't think disbanding the DOE is the priority?
I do think it's a priority, but some of these more immediate things need to be done first.
When DeVos led the department, Trump tried cutting its budget. In the 1980s, Ronald Reagan tried eliminating the agency. Neither plan worked.
Some Republicans have resisted this and presumably will resist this again, possibly because $14 billion goes to people with disabilities, and even people on the right wing may have children and neighbors with disabilities.
From ABC News, Trump's plan for schools in his second term. Provides programs such as Title I funding for low-achieving or high-poverty K through 12 schools in need of support, as well as Pell Grants for undergraduate students in high financial need. He proposed billions in cuts to the Department of Education's budget. He wants states, not the federal government, to have control over schools. This will also increase in red states the likelihood of like being forced to read the Bible and shit in schools, like open Christian nationalism. If you don't think that's coming in the next couple of years, that we're not going to start seeing more and more crazy shit, like it is. Buckle up. Trump's campaign has outlined a plan that features prayer in public schools, an expansion of parental rights in education, patriotism as a centerpiece of education, and an emphasis on the American way of life. He has also called for dismantling of diversity initiatives in education and federal funding cuts for schools or programs that feature critical race theory, gender ideology, or other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content. Republican-backed legislation across the country has similarly sought to limit these topics, and efforts have been criticized for being vague and leading to censorship in schools and classrooms on topics concerning race, gender, and politics. That's because, as we've already seen, they're not meant to be specific. They are meant to be vague. They are meant to be wide-ranging and reinterpretable at a moment's notice so that they can be malleable. They can be molded into any issue they want it to apply to. Trump has also suggested he would create a new credentialing body to certify teachers who embrace patriotic values and support the American way of life, and reinstate his administration's 1776 commission to align the teaching of history with the values of the founding of the United States, although Agenda 47 does not elaborate further on what such values are or define the criteria for embracing the American way of life. I can tell you, it's revisionist history. It is not talking about slavery. It is not talking about Native American indigenous genocides. It is not talking about labor unions or feminism or how the United States has repeatedly subjugated Southern American countries in the interests of massive capitalism. Like, none of those will be talked about. No. It is going to be revised history. It is going to be America is and always has been a great and amazing and fair place. And if you don't like it, well, you just aren't an apple pie, down home, good country loving American. You just might be one of them dirty reds or a queer. That's what it's going to be. Trump's Agenda 47 also anticipates an end to teacher tenure laws. These laws are described by the United Federation of Teachers as state laws that prevent a school district from dismissing a tenured teacher without due process. Most states have tenure laws in place. However, at least 10 states have zero or limited tenure laws, according to the National Education Association. He also said he will adopt a merit pay for teachers. Some studies have shown that merit pay programs improve student outcomes, but critics argue there is not enough evidence and that various factors impact student performance, including funding and resource inequality or inequity. Notably, when you combine merit-based teaching and certifying teachers who embrace patriotic values and support the American way of life, it becomes so clear that they are just going to hire people, and if not hire people, incentivize people, probably massively, who are just on board with their agenda. Trump's agenda for higher education includes creating a new free university called the American Academy, and to fund it by taxing, fining, and suing private universities. God. Nobody fucking looked at this shit. Nobody, right, fuck, I forgot about the 1776 commission. God, this was in 2020. This was right before leaving office. How Trump's administration warps the history of racism and slavery. Trump's parting shot at diversity education gets panned by historians as Biden prepares to disband the commission behind the report. Outgoing President fulfilled a promise to issue a report that promotes a patriotic education about race and the birth of the nation. The 1776 report, released on Martin Luther King Jr. Day, followed Trump's September announcement to form a commission to refute teachings on systemic racism, critical race theory, and deeper examinations of how slavery has affected American society. Again, if you want to know what it's all going to be like, look at this shit. The crusade against American history is toxic propaganda, ideological poison that, if not removed, will dissolve the civic bonds that tie us together, will destroy our country, he said at the time. He didn't say that. Somebody else wrote that shit. Ain't no fucking way. Sorry. No way Trump said that. There was no way his brain in 2020 put together those words in that order. It argues the true founding of America was not in 17... Oh, yeah. It's a clear rebuke of the 1619 Project, a Pulitzer Prize-winning report by the New York Times in 2019. It argues the true founding of America was not in 1776, but in 1619 when the first enslaved people were brought to the shores of the Virginia colonies. The Times report, led by reporter Nicole Hannah-Jones, set off a firestorm among conservatives, especially as many educators embraced its overall message and sought solutions for history lessons that often watered down or ignored parts of American history that grappled directly with oppression and subjugation of people on the basis of race. However, experts note that the new report, published by a group of conservative political operatives and academics, is rife with false assertions intended to distort well-documented accounts about how discrimination was enshrined by the nation's founders and continues to persist in various forms hundreds of years later. Among the many sections called out for whitewashing historical narratives, the 1776 report claims there's no truth to statements that the Founding Fathers were hypocritical for upholding slavery while claiming that all men are created equal, and that it's destructive to our civic unity and social fabric. The report also paints slave-owning leaders such as George Washington and James Madison as pioneers who set the stage for abolition. It is political conditioning for the entire underclass. That is what we are looking at here. Ironically, this is exactly what Dr. King was talking about. When he was talking about the white moderate who agrees with you, but not the method of protest, who thinks that, yeah, there should be equal rights, but maybe let's wait a little bit. Wait your turn. What we are witnessing here is crafting that into a matter of national policy for schools. That idea of morphing history into something where nothing was ever gained through force or violence. That, yes, there were bad things in the past, but they're overblown and they work themselves out. It is not even capitalist, imperialist propaganda to continue creating more and more vacuous, ill-informed workers. That is the end goal of all of this. It is not to educate. It is not to help. It is not to aid at any level, because as we've seen, they want to cut funding for teachers and mandate what they're teaching. They want to cut funding for special needs. They want to cut funding for school lunches. They want to continue to privatize all these things to nickel and dime, regardless of equity across any schools, regardless of the schools, the parents, the kids, anybody's ability to actually pay. They do not want to deliver a good education. They want to deliver a docile workforce that does not understand the machinations working against them. They do not understand the core forces that are shoving them on an assembly line through this education where they're not being educated to a job where they have no hope of ever actually joining that lofty 1%. But the entire time, the things that they'll remember are America is great. The system is working as intended. Everything is good. This is the way things should be. The people who are at the top, they're not there through nepotism. They're not there through lying and grifting, through backrooms deals. People like Donald Trump, Elon Musk, they get there through hard work. That's what I need to do. I just need to continue working hard, and one day I can have that white picket fence American dream. Boy, howdy. That's what they want kids to go through life feeling. This is in service of a grander societal project, because to people like Elon Musk, to people like Donald Trump, they want a plan for your children. It's different than the plan for their own children, because their own children are part of their dynasty. That's their genetic legacy, right? They see them as an extension of themselves. Well, probably not Don Jr. and Eric Trump. I think Trump sees them more like tumors honestly, to be excised. I really don't think he would miss them if they were not in his life. But certainly in Elon's case, right? They see them as the basis of a kind of a ruling class, really a ruling elite, a royal family, alongside Trump's fucking mandate of heaven that he seems to think he has, or at the very least, if what we just read from RFK Jr. is any indication, he surrounds himself with people who lavish that kind of praise on him. But for the rest of us, that is not the life plan they want us to have. They don't want you getting it in your head that you could ever be anything more than a worker drone. At a deep level. Now, subliminally, they want you to think like, yeah, okay, if I work real hard, I'll be able to get that house, be able to get that car, get that new shiny watch. But it is in service of an endless churn of consumerism. You are meant to continue focusing on the consumption as your primary act of living. Not expression, not caring about others, not civic responsibility, but to continue grinding for the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. Do you think it's any wonder that Trump has surrounded himself with products, that he continues to sell products, that he puts his name on so many products? Do you think it's any wonder that Elon Musk does the exact same thing?